Okay, you're gonna have to ignore this pile of loonies. They have no purpose, but they're for something else. I don't want to disassemble it and put it back together, or shoot this somewhere else. So we're just gonna shoot it right here with a partially set up thing. That you'll just have to accept that you don't know what it's for yet. Okay, so I'm back from Scarlet. This was a little bit of a Mamoru Hosada's new film, Scarlet. Just came out. I had to see it twice. I don't regret seeing it twice. Went to go see it on Friday, and three things happened. One, first, the ticket kiosk broke and didn't actually spit out our tickets, and it's like, hey, you need to go talk to someone to get your tickets. Good luck. Second thing, the movie broke for the first time, which is that after the pre-show, so a bunch of commercials show, then we get three trailers for the new Hunger Games, Baz Luhrmann's epic Elvis Presley in concert, and for Super Mario Galaxy movie. And then one more commercial, and then the little like feature presentation thing played. And when it was done, everything went silent and the lights came on and nothing happened. So we went and found somebody, told them that it's like, hey, so movie broke, didn't actually start playing. They're like, yeah, we're on it. Give it 5 to 10 minutes. Movie finally starts. They're like, it won't do the pre-show. It'll just go straight into the movie. And then it started doing the pre-show, and they had to it paused for like 40 seconds while they figured out how to get it to like jump straight to the movie. And then it jumped straight to the movie. Watching the movie. Pivotal scene happens, and then the subtitles just stop. And now at first when the subtitles stopped, it was during a song moment, and so it was like, okay, maybe they just stopped subtitling the song because like the song's been going for a bit, and it was just kind of like repeating the chorus. So it was like, okay, maybe that was just a artistic decision that they didn't need to keep subtitling the song. They figure you've got it by now. But it kind of didn't feel like that. Felt like a glitch. It was a glitch, because then we come out and the dialogue kicks back in. No subtitles. We're like, okay, was it just like a scene problem? No. Was it just a problem with like the reel? No. It just kind of kept going. It just kept not having subtitles for... It would be easier to say the rest of the movie, but the subtitles did finally kick in for about the last 40 seconds, maybe minute and a half of the movie. We did get subtitles back. Now you might be wondering, so we watched about 40 minutes of the movie without subtitles. And now you might be saying like, okay, like why would you do that? Why didn't you just like leave and intend on coming back, get a refund, get a whatever, and intend on coming back? And I was like, well, how hard can it be to like follow the general gist of it? And like, I kind of wanted to know, I wanted a sense if I did want to come back and see the rest of it, because you don't know. But also it was like we had seen enough of the movie. We knew the characters. We knew the characters' names. We knew their like relationships to one another. Had a firm grasp on theme and goals and blah 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 blah. So it was like, all right, we could probably keep up, right? Like how hard can it be to keep up? And it turns out like not actually that hard. Okay, so they gave us comp tickets. And I went back today to go watch it again, hopefully subtitled beginning to end, see what I missed in the second half, see if that changes my opinion of it. And it did. It did change my opinion of it for the better, The interesting thing here from my point of view is that this is a movie that is in the process of bombing, at least from what I have heard on Blue Sky by sort of talking about it and being curious about it. People were saying they've seen trailers for it before Sony Pictures Classics films in the last few months, and they saw trailers for it before Chainsaw Man and Demon Slayer. And I hadn't gone and seen any of those. So like, I didn't see the trailer before that. I didn't see it before any Sony Pictures Classics recently. So this might be a Canada thing. But from my perspective, they did not start a wide audience push marketing campaign until basically a week ago. So like, I've gone and seen a bunch of movies. I've gone and seen a bunch of movies in IMAX in the last few months. And, you know, checking tickets, like, you know, you're getting ads for like, oh, upcoming movies, upcoming shows. You're getting the banner ads, you're getting this, that, whatever. And like, I had not seen anything for this movie up until about a week ago. And so that could be a Canada thing. What I am hearing is that the movie basically bombed in Japan, was not well received, and that probably spooked distributors. And in the hierarchy of distributors, in terms of like where they're gonna like peel back on marketing, it's gonna, you know, get sort of worse and worse the further that you get. America is gonna get a marketing budget, Canada less. So I think that's what happened. And that, I think, is a shame. So here is my opinion on Scarlet by Mamoru Hosoda. I think this is a movie that is going to be well remembered. I think its reputation is going to grow over time. I think it will ultimately be well remembered and will be looked back on as kind of a forgotten gem in 5-10 years. I think whenever Mamoru Hosoda's like next film comes out, 3-4 years from now, 2-3-4 years from now, 5 years from now, who knows, I think when that comes out, it's going to lead to people being like, hey, so his last film, let's take a look at it. What happened here? I think Scarlet is not a masterpiece, but I think it is quite good. Now, the thing that is inevitable to sort of compare it to would be his previous film, Belle. And I think that is an interesting comparison because I loved Belle, but the thing with Belle is that it is a intensely spiritually beautiful film that elicits a extreme emotional reaction, but its plot is a mess. And it is kind of janky. And so the thing with Belle, I remember I came out of it, I'm like, that was like, there's a couple just like moments in the movie where it really feels like whole scenes were missing. Whole like montages were missing. Like chunks of the movie had just not gotten made. There's a whole thing that just kind of doesn't line up in Act 3 with like this whole Beauty and the Beast thing that's kind of going on, that like it doesn't quite work. So like plot wise and structure wise, Belle is kind of a mess. And yet, despite that, the highs in that movie are so transcendently high that you're willing to forgive it a lot. So Belle, like, despite its messiness, I became obsessed with it when it came out. I went and saw it, I think, 3 times in theaters. So that's really what I'm taking into Scarlet. And Scarlet doesn't hit quite those same emotional highs, but ... it is, I think, quite well structured as a movie. I think it's a very well told story. The main sort of gripe I have with it would really just be that the like final scene is a bit too naive. It's a little cringe. It's optimistic, but it's optimistic in a really kind of like simplistic way. And I think there's a better ending if you just kind of end the movie a little bit early. You leave the message of this sort of final speech. It's already well implied by everything before it happens. So you could just basically have Scarlet headed into that moment, and just like, just leave it implied, cut it there. That, I think, was honestly the main weakness. Now, granted, here's one of the things in terms of responses to it, is that the final moments are kind of critical. So I think maybe what's weighing this down in some ways is that, like, the final moments just ring really hollow with a lot of people, and that leads to them being like, I don't really like this movie. Otherwise, like, I think it's gorgeous. I think it is well told. I think it's well structured. I think it goes interesting places. I think it has compelling characters. I did really enjoy it. So again, I am in the interesting position of sitting here trying to reflect on a movie that is in the process of bombing when I think it's actually pretty good. And that sort of leads me to, like, that's why I'm sort of like thinking, okay, how is this going to be received in the future? How are people going to look back on this? Because clearly a unpromoted animated film from Japan that didn't even get a dub is not going to do gangbusters via word of mouth campaign. You know, vloggers are not going to save this film at the box office. The fate of this film in its theatrical release is basically already written. It was written by the promotion campaign. It was written by the distribution. It was written by, you know, the machine. We can skip straight to the stage of just anticipating legacy and just sort of guessing what people are going to think of it in the future. It has made me very, very, very curious to dig into what Japanese critics had to say about it. I have not looked into that at this point, so that's a big, huge question mark. I don't know why Japanese audiences rejected it. I have a suspicion, which I'll get to in a second, but I do not know. One of the other sort of criticisms that I've heard of it has come from animators and animation fans. I have seen split opinions from, and again, this is just judging from like my Blue Sky responses, you know, a highly objective and very you know, thorough sampling of people, you know, but from voluntary responses. I'm seeing this, like, some animators and anime aficionados really didn't like it, and others do. And as someone who considers myself an animation aficionado, like, I really liked it. I liked the animation, but at the same time, I think I can understand, you know, I haven't asked anyone, hey, why didn't you like this? But I think I can guess what those responses are going to be. And what it is, okay, so they used a process very similar to Arcane, where it is like very similar to Arcane, very similar to Spider-Verse. So it is all CG 3D character models that are moving around, but then they are processed through various rendering layers that flatten them, shade them, paint them, etc., 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 etc. It's using that process. I'm guessing maybe one of the reasons why, and maybe this is the whole reason why, maybe Japanese audiences rejected it purely because they don't like that process. They don't like that style. And that could be as much tied into sort of a passionate allegiance to 2D animation, which I understand, I share, but like at the same time, like there is tremendous artistry in CG animation. It is 2D animation and CG animation are not enemies. One is not inherently better than the other. We have plenty of dreck and cruft and just low skill, low effort, low budget, low care, uh, crass commercial cash in 2D animation. I watched My Little Pony the movie recently, the one from the 80s, and it is awful. It is terrible. It is so cheap, and it is so just like a blunt commercial object that exists to market toys to children, right? But it is traditional two-dimensional animation. People sat and painted it. But at the same time, like there is, I think, a fear if I'm going to lab a Japanese perspective on this, which is like grossly unfair and really just a shot in the dark. I would maybe guess that like it is sort of this response of like the CG animation processes represent a further encroachment of the Americanization of the domestic animation industry in Japan. I can see that as an argument, and I can't even really like I can't tell somebody it's like no that's an unfair thing to say. So if that is the angle, like yeah, okay, all right, I see where you're coming from, and then it would be that like it's not so much what Scarlet is as much as it's what maybe Scarlet represents. From an industry perspective, that's one guess that I have. For the other animators, for the like Western animation fans and animators that have said they didn't like it, they thought it was bad. I think it would maybe come down to the fact that there are a bunch of techniques that they use in this that are mimicking the cost saving techniques of anime that aren't good when 2D anime does them, and are worse when 3D anime does them. I talked about this when I talked about the animation of Bakshi, that Ralph Bakshi's animation, that the rotoscoping, you end up with like this really intense line boil that you can tell when they've like cut corners and like saved money, because a character will have this like really dynamic line boil as they're moving, and then they'll just like freeze. And so there are definitely some artifacts like that creep in. And I will admit that like kind of why I'm glad I saw it twice, because I wanted to sort of control for this to the degree that I could, is that when you're watching a subtitled movie, your attention, your visual attention is split. You're watching the faces as much as possible, but a lot of your time watching is spent reading subtitles. So facial animation, face acting is less in your brain when you're watching a subtitled movie. That just is a thing. You only have so much time to absorb everything, and you're needing to read at the same time, and so you are getting less of the facial acting, which I think after I came out on Friday, I was wondering to myself if maybe I was going easy on the movie because I wasn't watching the faces as much. So seeing it a second time, where like half of the movie I had already seen and could focus on the faces more because I didn't need to follow the dialogue as much, but then also half of the movie I had also seen but hadn't understood, and so was only able to sit there and like watch the faces the first time. I did see a lot of inconsistency there. I didn't think any of it was like so egregious that it took me completely out of it, where I would dock the movie as a whole. But it was definitely not as end to end polished as maybe anyone would have hoped it would have been. Like, I don't think I think there's definitely shots in this that the people who animated it are looking at and going like, man, I wish I'd had some more time on that one. You know, when it looks good, it looks phenomenal. When the animation is at its peak, it is breathtaking. And very good, very compelling animation. It's just not 100% always at that level beginning to end for 2 straight hours. That's, I guess, the other thing is that, like, it is not short. You know, it's a 2-hour movie. So that's a lot of scenes to animate and polish. Yeah, I don't know. I might have a follow-up on this depending on what my research sort of surfaces. But at the moment, I'm just like, I quite enjoyed this movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was definitely worth watching. I thought it was worth watching twice. I think Mamoru Hosoda is a talented filmmaker who has interesting and compelling ideas. And I think that that continues with this. But at the same time, like, I will also be the first to admit that, like, Mamoru Hosoda, like, I think every film of his has compromises in it in this regard. You know, he is not a perfectionist, and he has his foibles, and there are a lot of holes in a lot of his movies, but I think he is very talented, and I don't think Scarlet deserves to be a flop based purely on the movie that I've seen in the context that I've seen it. End of vlog.